Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we've got a tier list for the OP09 meta, a pretty big meta when it comes to the history of this card game. It's going to be our final card fest for the 2024 season here in North America. That's going to be legal, and I know a lot of people are expecting big changes into this meta as well. So I'm going to make my tier list going over my thoughts going on into it. We do have a lot of Japanese data, and essentially, as far as you know, it's going to be the same meta. We haven't seen any restrictions come up, which I predicted was going to happen, that we're just going to be the same as the Japan meta, and it's going to be interesting to see the differences between the two. So we know what it kind of looks like, and I've been doing a good amount of testing as well, and these are just my thoughts going on into it too. So if you guys enjoy the content, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. It really does help. We're also live recording this too. We do a lot of live streams, so make sure to hit those notifications so you get notified when we are live, and you can interact with the stream as well. So these are all leaders that I thought were good, and a couple that chat thought that I needed to talk about a little bit. These are not all the leaders in the game either, because that would just take forever long, and over half of them I think are just not viable in this game right now anyways. But to go over the tiers real quick, we've got tier 1. So these are decks that I would think were to win an event, or should top most of them as well. 1.5 is that they should top a good amount of them and win occasionally. Tier 2 is that they should top occasionally, but I wouldn't expect it very consistently. Experimental is just decks that I don't have any evidence that they are good, but I do see some synergies, and these are ones that I'm going to be testing in the next little weeks, but I just haven't had enough test time to have any solid opinions on it. And then bad or banned, just the bottom tier as well. So if anything is not mentioned as a leader, I think it is inherently tier 2 or lower. Again, I'm not going to be able to go over every list in this video, so I know that means there's going to be a lot of comments of where's my favorite leader, how dare you not put it in tier 1, and I do apologize. But this is my tier list, and I do, I just get my own opinions. I don't know what to say for it. So we're going to jump on into it, though. We're going to start with our 6 new leaders that we got from this set, and we're going to start off with Shanks. Shanks I'm going to put in a comfortable tier 1.5, I think, to start this off. I know a lot of people do like the deck, and it's pretty popular right now, but I feel like some of the consistency from it is like a little bit lacking, which feels a little bit bad. You just have to run like a good amount of bricks a lot of the time, and you don't have like a lot of filtering, so there's just like a lot of times where there's not a lot of like consistency with it. So I like the deck, though. I thought I'd like it a little bit more, so it's been a little bit disappointing from that side. But we're going to put in 1.5, and we're going to see how it does. It's going to top a lot, I think, in this meta. And when occasionally it got second place in my kind of pre-OP09 tournament that I held this week too. So I think it's good. I don't want to deter anyone from playing it, but I don't think it's good right now. All right, next up you've got Lim, and I'm going to put this in experimental in the fact that I know that this deck is going to be really good in OP10. I've seen some results from Japan already, and it did get a lot of great support cards to help it be a little bit more relevant. But in this meta, I haven't seen it as much, and I do think like you are like some people are a little bit like locked into only running like the Odyssey cards, and I think there maybe is like a way to build this where it's like you use the Odyssey cards for like some ramp occasionally, right, and just some bodies off the leader effect, but you use a different engine entirely. So I've been experimenting with some other stuff. Purple has some really cool cards right now, and green as well. So I'm seeing if there's something that makes sense to play with Lim, because you could even just like play like a Don Quixote do Flamingo package where you just ramp all the way up to 10 as soon as possible, and you can play your 10 drop. A lot of people are playing like the Zoro Turbo version of the deck too, which I think is okay, but I'm interested to see some other builds for this one in particular. So we're putting in experimental right now. It can probably top. If I was going to put it into like a real tier right now, I put it in tier 2, but I think there's like some other builds that exist for it. All right, Buggy, I am going to put it in the bad and banned, and spoilers, it's not banned. But the promo that makes the deck good is semi-banned, right? If you guys don't know, there is a promo that exists for the Japanese version of the OP09 meta that does help the deck out quite a bit, but we have no release date for it here in North America, unfortunately. So hopefully we will eventually get it. I do think that helps the viability with the deck, but without it, I just don't think there's really a reason to play it at all. So unfortunately, I don't think Buggy's very good. I mean, it's kind of thematic, I guess, if you want to say it that way, but I'm going to put him right into the bad and banned side of this. Next up, we got Black and Purple Luffy. And I really kind of believe in this guy. I think it's going to get like the occasional top there. is like a contention of which one's better. Is it the black and purple one? Is it the mono purple one? And we'll talk about that one in a minute. But I do think the deck is still good. There's some really cool synergies and kind of lines that only this leader gets to do because of its, if you lose 2 Dawn, you get 2 Dawn back kind of mechanic, which is pretty unique for him in this game as well. So I'm going to put this here at the tier 1.5. I think it's pretty viable in a lot of ways, and it's going to do pretty good. And then Nico Robin, I am going to put in tier 2, but I really like this deck. I truly do. I don't know what it is. I really do like ramp decks and being able to ramp up into our high like Dawn cost cards a little bit earlier. I do think Robin has a lot of the same similarities of the good things and bad things of leaders like Yamato, where we're really aggressive. The banish really is impactful, I think, a lot of times, and the ramp is really consistent in this, right? We just have to discard a card with trigger in our hand, which we get a lot of. We have burn damage in this deck pretty consistently, and I really do like it. I just haven't seen people equally confident in the deck too. So this is me putting it lower. I personally think it's viable. I would actually want to try to make this deck as good as possible if I had the chance to, and I think that I am lowballing it, excuse me, a little bit, but it's viable. Do not let me stop you from playing Robin. Though I will say I did have a 128 player tournament. No one sleeved up Robin, which I thought was incredibly interesting. As good as I think this deck is, no one else was really confident in it, which was unfortunate. But I do think the deck is good, and I'm looking forward to seeing people try Robin and maybe some builds pop in a little bit. But I'm going to leave it here at tier 2 from now. Teach, no surprise, right? Jumps all the way to the top. I don't actually know what it's going to be a surprise for me too of what I think is actually the best deck in the format, and maybe I'll have chat who's watching this with me decide with me. But Teach is clearly in tier 1 right now. I think it's something that even if it's like temporarily in tier 1 as people kind of adjust to how this deck works and what it does with it, I think that this deck is just clearly very good. It's very linear. It's kind of like the same as Black Yellow Luffy, where it plays its own game, and its deck construction is very limited to playing that game, but it's very good at what it does. And you have to know how this matchup works and how the leader works, because it's going to be very present in this meta as well. So those are all of the 6 leaders that we get from this new set as well. But generally speaking, like the power level of these are, I'd say, above average. Like Robin technically I think can move up here a little bit. Shanks can move up to tier 1 depending on the day too. And Lim and Buggy are not like ruled out. Buggy kind of, unfortunately, because of the promo situation, but Lim is just like, even if it's not good right now, I think it's pretty clear that it's going to be better in the future too. So we're just going to leave these here, but that's kind of where I thought about for these guys. And then we have like a good amount of additional leaders at the bottom here, which we're going to go over a little bit shotgun style. So no surprise, Dofi. Boop. I don't have to explain that, right? We know this card is good, right? We know this leader is still really good and relevant in a lot of ways. I'm going to leave it right there. And this order is just kind of random from here on out. But Smoker, I'm going to put in 1.5. I think the deck is pretty good, and it's been doing a little bit of stuff in Japan as well. So I think that it might be like a bit of an adjustment for it, but you can play around the on-play negation from Teach. It's always just kind of had like no like superb matchups, like 70-30 matchups, but just generally a lot of like 55-45s or 50-50s. So it's pretty relevant, and I think present in this meta too. I'm just going to put like, this is just like 3 kind of cope decks in a row that I'm going to put experimental. I think there's something where like Red's got like this really good kind of top end control package that's happened from like OP09 to now that's helped the deck out a lot. So I think like Vivi has like some chances to be good with that. This experimental tier is just all decks that I've been like wanting to revisit and try out some new packages with it. So I'm gonna put these here as is right now. Uta is like the replacement for Marco because it doesn't really rely on the on plays as much. You do have to like minus a card from hand for it, but the minus 2k that you get to use with leader is really impactful sometimes, and you can use it to put cards into range. You can use it in conjunction with like Edward Newgate really well too. So both those things are really nice, and I appreciate Uta having access to that. So I've been testing that a lot. And then Crocodile technically got some new support since we did get a 7-drop Crocodile that can play some Brokeworks from your hand. So that's kind of neat. I think that's kind of unique for this Crocodile too. And there are some cool things you get to do with it. But I haven't tested this as much. This has always been like a fever dream. Like, oh, this can be like a really good blue purple deck that gets you your card draw. But I haven't tested it yet. I just know that it got like a little bit of new support. Next up, we've got Zoro. We're gonna put Zoro in tier 2 right now. It's just like is a deck that just is going to be around forever, right? It's still the best like neutral aggressive red deck, right? I think a lot of people are trying to figure out like what's the best way to aggro down like a Teach player or anyone else that's kind of like a little like 4-life leader that's a little bit more value based and a little bit slow to get its value. So I think Zoro is still going to be present. I think you can still get some wins with it. I don't know if it's as good as like the 8.5 meta where like the OP08 meta with Animal Pack, which was really good for the deck. But I don't know if it's going to be shifted away. I think Doflamingo might just be better at what it does with its aggression and its flexibility. But we're going to put it in tier 2. Purple Luffy, this is going to change likely depending on how I'm feeling that day. This might be something I asked chat too. Do we feel like Purple Luffy's in tier 1 or 2 or 1.5? I think it's in like 1.5 to be honest. It's likely better than Black and Purple Luffy, and maybe better than Shanks. Probably like in the point here, but it's looking like a lot of people in chat are saying like tier 1 though. Tier 1. All right. I'll put it like the tail end of tier 1. I do know like it's strong and a lot of people do believe in the deck. We do get some really great cards to take advantage of it. But I'll put it on like the tail end for it. Part of the reason I'm a little bit hesitant was part of my most recent bias is from the tournament that I ran, and we did have like a lot of people into the top cut. Like people play the deck, and it didn't top. No one went X1 with it, so. I think that it's a little bit. It still has like some consistency issues, but I do think it's like a really fast-paced purple deck. It can do well against Teach as well too. But I think that this might change. I could even change this between. I think Purple Luffy and Shanks are definitely like near each other. Maybe do we put like another like tier 1.25 in? Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that at the end of it. We'll find out. Nami is going to be 1.5, right? It's just around. It got like a piece of new support. I think Nami is always better at like a beginning of a format where people are trying to figure out their decks, so you can take advantage of decks being a little bit more inefficient. I don't think it's definitely not tier 1, and I think it's better than tier 2. So 1.5 is likely good, but I'm not sure. We'll leave it right here. We'll see how it is. I know it has like a bad matchup against like Doflamingo and some others, but if you're playing against like a really slow deck, it's in a bad spot. Like they just have a rough time. Katakuri, I think tier 2. It still tops occasionally. It's kind of like Zoro, right? Like the aggressive version of yellow. I think like unironically, Nico Robin is just like a better aggressive deck at times, but I do want to mention it here as well. Stardeck 14 Luffy, likely tier 2. Also, no real support, and I do think like Black and Purple Luffy for like cost increase stuff is like a little bit better. So we're just gonna leave that there too. Where else? Yamato, tier 2. I'll probably rearrange this one as well. Queen, I'll put experimental because that's just been something I've been testing. Perona, I'll put in tier 2, even though it did get some new support cards. It's not something I've personally tested a lot of with the new stuff, but I do think that there is potentially something with it. It's been able to top occasionally in the past couple of formats. Nothing like overwhelmingly popular, but it is, I think, moderately strong in that way. Where are we feeling about Enel? Enel, I've always had a hard time placing this correctly. We kind of have like a weird matchup against Teach where we don't get like the heal, but like we get to like play a lot of big bodies. 1.5 is probably where I'm going to keep it for right now, but I'm not sure. Betty, I'm going to put like the top end of tier 2. I think that this deck is like people are using it for what? For being able to like counter the Teach, right? So yeah, I'll probably leave that there. Bonnie will put in 1.5, but it's probably towards the tail end. Rebecca likely tier 2. People will just always play this deck and swear that they'll find the good piece for it, but I'm going to leave that there. Rob Lucci, I think Rob Lucci's still tier 1, to be honest. I don't know if I'm going to get flack for this, but this deck is still really good, right? right? There's not like a lot of ideas where like even though like Teach is a really bad matchup, a lot of people are adjusting to it, right? But I don't know. I do think like we still get a lot of abilities for it. I think like if people just like sleeve up their same 8.5 list and immediately try to play it with Rob Lucci, they're gonna have a bad time. Like you have to adjust for it, I think. But I think it's still really good, and people are kind of underestimating it in a lot of ways. And then we've got Luffy, Black Yellow Luffy. I think I'm gonna make it a 1.25 if I'm gonna be super honest. I know that's kind of obnoxious, but I do think like people are again like kind of overestimating how like even though this does have like a bad matchup into Teach, you can still do some stuff with it, right? Yeah, let me add like a 1.5 real quick. All right, we're back with we made the tier 1.25. So if I was to make like a little half tier step in between this, I Lucci's probably there. Like Lucci's still like top end. Shanks can move up. Purple Luffy can go here, and then like this. It's probably something like this. Bonnie would probably be the top of tier 1.5 so far. We're still ranking leaders, but I'm gonna likely do it like this. I think these two are like generally the best two decks in the game, still. But I don't know. So many things are really close right now. Do you think Teach is? I think Dofi's probably better than Teach, to be honest. People are just kind of adjusting to this. I don't know. I really don't know what the strongest deck in the game is right now, though. What else do we got? We got Reiju. Reiju's probably tier 2 in my mind. Sanji's also tier 2. Vegapunk's also tier 2. Foxy's also tier 2. Man, there's a lot of tier 2s. Marco, I put this on here so people would recognize that I think it's tier 2 right now. And then what else? Kid, I'm going to put experimental. I know it got a lot of support, as well as like Sabo. I'm going to put this here as well. We did get some like good support cards indirectly and directly for both these leaders, but I don't know if they're like good enough to make it relevant. I really do think that there's a red purple leader that's good. Right now, my default for that is probably the red purple Luffy. It does have like some consistency issues, but I do think it's really great. So I'm going to put that in tier 1.5. And then, red, yellow, Sabo, almost good. Boa, I'm going to put in tier 1.5 as well. Generally, like, Boa's not like a bad deck either. It's just the fact that, like, Doflamingo does the same thing, but just way better in my mind, right? And then Ace, I'm going to put experimental as well, to kind of just even it out. But we got some new support. It still can do some things. I haven't seen it personally enough to like have like a full opinion on it. So I do believe enough that there's like the blue and yellow card pool can be good enough for this deck. But every set is like, oh, Ace gets some new things. It's finally consistent and viable now, and then it's just not. It's simply not. So well, let's see. So this is kind of where we're at for the tier list. Let me kind of rearrange my thoughts for this. Honestly, this one's probably better here. Probably something like this. Yeah, I personally have not figured out Shanks. Shanks is a mystery for me to how to play it correctly, which has been really tough. Yeah, so let's talk about this. Are there any other tier 2 and experimental? I guess I won't really rearrange. I think they're all kind of the same. But I know a lot of people are just jumping to the end here. So if you jump to the end, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Also, there's an ad starting on the Twitch side. So I guess we'll wait for a minute before we get to the last part. All right, this is where we fell for all of these. I know a lot of people were jumping to this part at the end. So if you did jump to the end, if you do not see your leader on this, It means that I personally think it's tier 2 or lower. You can fight me in the comments, but I don't think they're that relevant. And if they are relevant in your mind, let me know by trying to top with it in this meta. I would love to be wrong about that. But I did make like a last switch between Monkey D. Luffy and Bonnie. We didn't have this tier 1.25, but there's honestly like a lot of like kind of like half steps in between, I guess quarter steps between what I think is viable and not. And generally, I think there's a lot of decks that are very viable right now. So again, we're just going to go through the lists from where I'm at. Anything is not like hard ordered for this. You guys can change the order if you want, but just kind of like the groupings of what I see. So I think the best decks in the form right now are Doflamingo and Teach. Teach will likely get worse as more people get comfortable with it, but it might just stay the same as people just get better with the deck. It is something that I think is strong, but it is also something that's really linear and kind of like gated on its deck construction, where if you find out just a way to beat the deck consistently, they're not going to have a way to do anything about it. So Rob Lucci is probably third best deck in the format right now to me. I think it's kind of like the opposite, where people are like scared to play the deck and maybe even just bored from playing the deck from OP07. So they're trying out some new stuff, but I do think the deck is still really relevant. It's kind of same thing about Black and Yellow Luffy. I don't think this card is out of the format at all. You just have to adjust to what the format looks like. Shanks is in an okay spot, and Purple Luffy. These decks are still like a little bit less consistent for me than what I like, but I think that when they see their pieces at the right time, they're very good. Bonnie kind of in that same level too. So I think that this is relevant. Also, shouts to Russell for making me put it up here in 1.25. There's two other Luffys that are purple based that are like the red purple and the black purple Luffy. I think both these are relevant and can have some chances with it. Maybe just not, maybe a little bit frail because they are 3 and 4 life respectively, but I think that is where it is there. Smoker is still a really relevant deck. I do think it's good. Nami, Anel, Bo is great, but Dofi's just kind of better than it, but so less people kind of play this deck, but I think you can still do with it. Tier 2, these are decks that I don't necessarily believe in, but I do see a good amount of people playing it and testing it, so I think that these can all be relevant in their own ways. Maybe a little bit too linear or particular on their matchups sometimes, but they can have, again, a good day and do well. These are kind of decks that I've been working on or wanting to work on that are just generally not relevant outright, but I think that there might be some new cards or something that it does that counters one of the better decks that could give it like a bit of a niche or a foothold into this format, but I haven't done enough testing for it. And then the rest for there. Buggy, if Buggy had like its promo, it'd probably be in 1.5, but I haven't done any testing to cement that with the promo, so it's just there's no reason to play it if we don't have access to the promo, unfortunately, which is pretty sad when it comes to like an entire deck just not existing because one card hasn't been printed in North America yet. But here's my tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, this is my opinionated one, but based off data from Asia and my own events as well. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what this event, what this format looks like in general, including we have, I believe, a Treasure Cup next weekend, replacement one that's going to be OP09 based. So I'm going to be interested in that. And then we will have our Card Fest final on January 4th and 5th with this format as well. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you all next time.